And we're live. Hey guys. Welcome to Livestream Like Whoa. We are going live at a different time this week because I took this week off work, so I was able to stream in the middle of the day, which I normally can't do. And I know I have often seen in the recap, in comments afterwards, people, especially from Europe or kind of the those time zones, saying that they never get to catch me live because they are asleep, as well they should be. So I just thought that to mix it up a little bit, I won't be able to do this very often, but I thought this one time we could just go live in the middle of the day, at least here Central Time. So, hello everyone. Hello. Okay, we've got folks in the chat. Good evening to you, I think. I'm guessing, probably, for most folks. Good afternoon, my time, and also maybe people are on lunch break here stateside. Possibly people could catch it that way too. So, hey everybody. Hello. So today I thought I was trying to find the video where I got inspired to do this, but I saw recently somebody did the best books I've read since being on Booktube. And since we're still sort of around the 3-year anniversary mark, I thought that might be kind of fun to talk about. I went through and I found the top 3 books from each of the last 3 years where I've been on Booktube. So we'll look at that. Okay, yes. Okay, I see people from Finland. Ooh. Kathy, I'm not telling on you, don't worry. Some folks who are in the US as well. Hey, Ian. Yes, 6 p.m. in London. Yes. I always think of European time relative to London because that's usually who I'm on calls with. So I'm always very aware that I am 6 hours behind you guys. Oh yeah, okay. I guess it's still the morning in Washington, so here we go. Oh man, Vicky, way to put the pressure on here. Hopefully I can perform sufficiently for you guys. Michigan, England, Glasgow. I just read a category romance last night that was set outside of Edinburgh, and it was extremely disappointing because it was called Fling with Her Hotshot Consultant, and there was no fling in evidence. Like, they barely, yeah, it was a bummer. Anyway, so I have Scotland on the brain. There was a kilted man, so that was nice. Dominican Republic. Whoop. Scotland again. Netherlands. Yay! Okay, I'm so glad that some of the European folks are able to join us this time. Oh, and Georgia. Oh, wow. Okay, welcome, Tatya. Okay, so like I said, I thought that maybe we could just talk about like my favorite books that I've read, or the best books I've read since being on Booktube. So I went back and looked at my best of the year list, and I picked the top 3 from each year. Though I will tell you, when I was looking through the, almost knocked over my water. That would have been bad. Oops, just a second. I've got to sneeze. False alarm. I staved it off. Okay. When I was looking back through the lists, I had 2 that I thought I still like a lot, and they were number 4 in their respective years, but I felt like they were, relatively pretty good. So first of all, No Visible Bruises was my number 4 pick from last year. And this is a nonfiction book about domestic violence that is really, really good. Very hard to get through, though I think during lockdown is something that's quite relevant. So just wanted to shout this out as one I still think of as a favorite, as well as The Library at Mount Char. This was number 4 in the year I read it, and you guys know I still talk about this book quite a bit. So I just wanted to mention this one is another favorite that didn't quite make the cut. Let's see here. A fling isn't fair. Yeah, but like literally they didn't even get together. Like there was nothing until the last like 10% of the book. And I like a slow burn, but when I'm promised some sort of fling, and on the back cover it was like one night, like just like have a fling, get it out of your system. Like the implication was clearly that they were going to be getting it on and then like falling in love, and that just didn't happen. I mean, they fell in love because it's a romance, but the getting it on was very limited. And even like them admitting they had any feelings was very limited. Buffalo, Georgia. The one that's my neighbor, Georgia. Let's see here. In Seattle. Okay. So anyway, so those were the two kind of like runners up that I wanted to shout out. Let's see here. Isn't there another book that looks just like the library at Mount Char? I don't know. I think this is a pretty unique cover design. I'm sure, but I mean, I'm sure there is something that looks at least vaguely similar to that, just given the number of books that are published. But none that come to mind for me. Okay. So first up, I'm not going to go in any like ranked order. I'm just grabbing from the pile, and Ian is here. So I know he will be very happy to see that Sleeping Murder is in the top, I guess, 9 of the last 3 years. This was one that I read last year. It's my new favorite Miss Marple book. It's technically her last book, even though it wasn't written last. And it's so good. I know that not everybody loves this as much as I do. But what I like about this is it's a murder that is happening in the past. And Miss Marple is like helping. It's like cold case Miss Marple. And I think Agatha Christie does those actually pretty well. This is my personal favorite of that type of plot from her. I know a lot of people would prefer Five Little Pigs, but this is my favorite version of it. It just has like all the things I like about a Marple. It is very like, it was when I was reading it last year, I remember having the feeling of like, oh, this is like the feeling that I've gotten from like all of my favorite Agatha Christie's that I've read. Like, it's just lovely prose. I'm loving like all of the whodunitness and the atmosphere. It just like hit the spot for me. So I think this is well deserving of the top 9. Let's see here. Yes, a clickbait title. The Unwritten Book. I don't know that one, but maybe that's what it is. The Library, The Unwritten, possibly. Let's see here. There you go. Oh, hey, Vamps Rock. Yes, you're welcome. Yes, Ian is one of my like OG subscribers, guys, and he and Eamon are like my 2 Agatha Christie buds who've like been here from the like almost the beginning. Way more about Agatha Christie than I do, but are always like super gracious, and I just appreciate their shared standing. Okay, yes, we've confirmed The Library of the Unwritten. Is it the book? Possibly. Okay, Ian says, not my absolute favorite Marple, but I love the first few chapters, spooking, intriguing, and really pulling you in. Yes, like it, I do like that kind of atmosphere in a Christie. Like, this is one where at the beginning you're wondering if maybe there's like something supernatural happening. And like, I guess spoilers, but just in Christie in general, like it's never... It's like very rarely ever something supernatural happening. But I think she evokes that atmosphere pretty well. And yeah, that is definitely in this. This also has a literary clue, like from the literary canon. And I enjoy it when she has one of those. Let's see here. I only came across you in the last month or so, but so you may have covered this, but do you prefer Poirot or Marple? So I personally definitely prefer Poirot. However, I did rereading projects in the first 2 years of my channel where I reread all of the Poirot and reviewed them all, and I reread all of the Marple and reviewed them all. And what I took from that was, even though I personally like Poirot better, Marple is more consistent. So like if you're like, the highs I think of Poirot are higher, but Marple across the board I think is more consistent. So I like Poirot better, all that to say, but if I was going to like recommend one of those two series to start with, I would recommend start with Marple because it's shorter and it's more consistent. Yes, I do too. Have you seen the adaptation of Sleeping Murder? I don't think so. I tend to have not, like, really the only Marple adaptation I've liked is the one with Angela Lansbury for The Mirror Cracked. So I've tried a couple of the Marple adaptations and didn't like them. I feel like I need to kind of just maybe give them another try. I don't know. Team Marple, there you go. Are you working from home? I do now work from home, probably until there's a vaccine. So for a while, but I'm actually off this week. That's why I'm doing it a little earlier. Yes, a lot of, yeah, I think Agatha Christie is definitely one of the channels through which people find me. Sleeping Murder is okay, but not amongst my favorites. Yeah, I would say my enjoyment of it might be a little bit of a niche opinion. The Murder at the Vicarage. I forget which one I ended up putting as my second favorite. I think Murder at the Vicarage is my second favorite Marple, and like it is the gossipy little like biddies that I enjoy. They're great. Cold Case books, Five Little Pigs, and Cards on the Table. Yeah. Oh, I guess Cards on the Table is technically a cold case. It's both a hot and a cold case, and Cards on the Table is my very favorite Agatha Christie book, so I guess I technically would have to amend and say that Cards on the Table is my favorite version of that, followed by Sleeping Murder, then probably followed by Five Little Pigs. No, I'm not doing spoilers. Death on the Nile is a top 5 for me. There you go. Yeah, a lot of people like Joan Hickson, just not for me. I do love David Suchet's adaptations. Yeah, I think those are great. Thank you. Yeah, Murder at the Vicarage I think is one of her very best books. Oh, interesting. So apparently the latest adaptation is not very like the book. That's how I felt about The Pale Horse recently. That was a mess. I mean, like, I actually didn't hate it as like a mystery, but like as an adaptation, it was, I did not think improved upon the book. Cold case meaning that it's not a murder that's taken place recently. It's a murder that has taken place in the past, and you're like trying to dig up the clues from the past. Actually, that's a very good segue here to my next pick, which is the Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This is one that takes place in 3 different timelines, and if you watch me, you probably are aware that I tend to not like multiple timelines in a mystery, because I think usually it is covering up for some sort of structural weakness in the mystery itself. And I'm usually more interested in one timeline than the other, but this is the rare situation where I think all 3 timelines are good, are interesting. I guess it's really mostly 2 with sort of like a half of one. But I just love, like, thematically, this book is great. It's basically like set at a creepy, like, New England girls reform school kind of thing. And there's been like a series of weird things that have happened there over the years, and there's also this question of, is there a ghost? So there's like some supernaturally kind of things in here too. The writing is great. Like, this is just this is one of my favorite mysteries ever. Like, this is all around just super solid. So anyway, speaking of a cold case, part of the timeline that's happening in the present is somewhat about the main character's sister was killed like 20 years ago-ish. And so that's one of the things she is investigating. So nice little segue there. The Marple movies with Margaret Rutherford aren't very faithful to the books, but are a lot of fun. Yeah, I think those are ones that Christie was still alive to see. I don't remember if I've ever actually seen one of those, but maybe. Yes. Thank you. I've read one Patricia Cornwell. It was her like Jack the Ripper true crime attempt, and I wasn't that impressed with the writing, so don't know that she's for me, but I do know she's very, very popular, so she definitely doesn't need my support. She's doing great, so yay! I'm glad that this works for Europe. Yes, Agatha Christie is the best. Appointment with Death. That's like a top. I don't remember if that quite made my top 10, but that's like a top 15 for me. I think that one evokes like ooky spooky atmosphere and has like maybe her most unlikable villain ever, like, or like unlikable character. So there you go. I really enjoyed The Broken Girls. I also liked her new book, The Sundown Motel. I usually don't like paranormal mysteries, but her books just really work for me. Same, like I can be a little iffy on paranormal elements, but I think she incorporates it really effectively. The summary for this one didn't quite appeal to me, but I actually, yeah, you probably can't tell, but I do have several of her books, and I would like to get to some of her backlist there. Yay, hello to Finland. You ever thought of doing a subscriber or Patreon book club? I don't know. I think if I was ever gonna do a Patreon, that would probably be a part of what I would do with it. I just don't know that I've got really interest in doing that at this point. For me, YouTube is still a hobby. Like, it's a hobby that I'm thankful that, like, at this point, you know, I make money off of, and therefore I can subsidize like all of the equipment and stuff that goes into running this, and like it covers my book budget, which I appreciate. So I don't know. I do Discord read-alongs, but they're not very structured. So if you're interested in seeing any read-alongs that I've got going, you can check out my Discord. But in terms of something people would have to like pay for, I would probably only do that in the context of Patreon, and I just don't have an interest in doing that at this point. Like, YouTube is not my job. Like, I still think of this as my hobby, and frankly, I think if I went there, it would I don't know. I'm just not ready for it to feel like work. It is technically work. It's actually a lot of work to do all of this, but it doesn't feel like work, and I've tried to get better over the years at like excising any part of the channel that does feel like work. Yeah, I didn't love that book. I tried it and I DNF'd it. Okay, good to know about Patricia Cornwell. It was the first Rutherford movie that got me into Christie. Good to know. There you go. Yeah, I haven't seen Marple adaptations in a long time. Maybe I can use the lockdown to try to search some of those out and reevaluate. I like a true crime book, but I can see how that wouldn't be for everyone. Yeah. Oh, good to know. I have not read that, but actually I've not even heard of that author, to be honest with you. Yay! I'm so proud right now. I just read The Highlander Takes a Bride on your recommendation and really liked it. It was my first romance book. What would you suggest I read next? Alexandra, can you give me some more information about what it was you liked about that book? And then we can go from there. But in general, folks, if you are looking for like a campy, fun, historical rom-com romp that has like a murder mystery and a bunch of dumb hot people running around, like, you're not going to do better than The Highlander Takes a Bride. It's just good times. Let's see here. The anime. Oh, I have heard about this anime series and I've never seen any of it, and I feel like it might be kind of bonkers, so that might be fun. Oh, hello to South Africa. Oh, nice. Watership Down. I remember judging myself as a kid because I just couldn't get into it, and like some people around me were reading it and I didn't like it. Oh, yay. Hello. Do you like the Samantha Downing thrillers? I haven't read one from her. so I don't have an opinion yet, but the descriptions of her books are always really interesting. So for what that's worth, they may come into my TBR at some point. Yeah. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, bought Sam from the beginning on my recommendation. Awesome. Well, actually, let's just use that as a segue because that was one of the other ones in my top 9 from the last 3 years. So I think that was number 2 in 2018. Stand from the Beginning by Ibram X. Kendi. I don't have a physical copy because I have it as audio. It's getting a lot of hype right now, so I don't really know. Like, actually, and I also have like a full review of it up on my channel, so you guys are welcome to go check that out. It's just some of the best nonfiction I've ever read, even apart from how important the subject matter is. I think it's a really good history of ideas, and that is a type of nonfiction I tend to like. So that was another one. Thank you for giving me a natural segue to talk about that. Just joining from Ottawa, I was picking up some books that I had ordered a while ago, including How to Be an Anti-Racist and Hood Feminism. So excited to start reading. I haven't read Hood Feminism yet, but How to Be an Anti-Racist, which is also by Ibram X. Kendi, is fantastic, and I hope you enjoy it. I liked the lighthearted aspects, fun characters, and I liked the mystery element. Okay. Let me think here. Oh, you know what might be a good one to try? Pause. Tessa Dare, do you want to start a scandal? Because my friend Amanda at the Naughty Librarian has described this as 007 and Nancy Drew meet at a Regency house party. They try to solve a mystery and bone, which is pretty accurate. So if you liked like kind of fun tone, lighthearted, and mystery, I think this would be a good way to get into things. Also, Tessa Dare is an actual queen. So if you like her, if you like this, I think you'll like, I mean, like everything she writes is just a joy. So that would be my recommendation of maybe a next one. Let's see here. Simone St. James sound intriguing. And I don't read much mystery thriller. Yeah, Simone St. James, I think, has a really nice writing quality. I really would like to try more of her backlist, but have you read Harlan Coben books? I have not. Not really been intrigued, but I am aware of him. Eliette de Bodard, maybe, has also written a Sherlock in Space story. Oh, that's fun. She's Vietnamese, and her sci-fi takes influence from that culture. Oh, that sounds like fucking rad. Let's look that up. Bodard. The Tea Master and the Detective, I think is what it's called. That's what Goodreads is suggesting. Also, this cover is so gorgeous. I don't even have words to talk about it. Okay, well, thank you so much for the recommendation, and I'm going to put this on my want to read shelf. This cover is beautiful. Okay. Okay, yeah, that sounds super, super interesting. Thank you for the recommendation. Yes, to Tessa Dare. She is a queen. Okay, good. I'm glad that that's a good recommendation, Alexandra. Let me know how that goes. I'm happy to continue to continue you on your romance journey. I met one of my friends yesterday. She was texting me because we had seen each other this weekend, and we were talking about some romances that I thought she might get into. She likes a romantic element in a book, but she doesn't like a romance per se. So I was giving her some recommendations, and she's like, oh, can you remind me what those were? And I was like, yes, I'm always happy to convert people to the good news of sexy, smutty times. Like, it's a nice element to layer into your reading diet, I think. Yes, Tessa Dare is so great. Just lots of love for Tessa Dare. She is fantastic. Do I like Murder, She Wrote? Please, what kind of like old cat spinster lady do you think I am? Yes, of course I love Murder, She Wrote. It is everything. I like that was always the enjoyment for me as a kid. If I was sick and had to stay at home, I would sit there and watch me some Murder, She Wrote. I love that show so much. Yeah, it's just so good. If I had to, I'm trying to think if I had to pick a favorite episode. That's hard. I actually really love the first like television special. But I also really love the Sins of Cabot Cove. That's like it's like very soapy and fun. I love Murder, She Wrote. Okay. Anyway, I'm also new to romance in some of her books. You suggested in earlier vids, and she's my favorite so far. Okay, good. Yeah, Tessa Dare I think is a good starting place for romance. She's, I think, a pretty easy one to recommend for new people coming into the genre. Yes, I actually, Diana Peter Franz in The Hall of the Night take on Clue characters. Can't wait for In the Study with the Wrench. I actually have an arc of that. So I will be reading that soon. So I will let you guys know how it goes. But I really liked that first book too. It wasn't perfect, but I thought that it was like a fun version of what it was trying to be. My favorite Tessa Dare book, I would say it's a toss-up between A Week to Be Wicked and The Duchess Deal. I think The Duchess Deal is probably her best book. I do really love it. I guess, but I think A Week to Be Wicked is probably my favorite. A Week to Be Wicked has like a blue stocking, like nerdy heroine, and she like is a geologist, and she like runs away to go to a geology conference, and this rake goes along with her. So it's like a road trip book, and they have the smexy times. It's all good. That's exactly right. Romance is great. It's just about finding your preferences. That is true in literally every genre. Like, even if you say you love mystery, you probably don't love every kind of mystery, but you have to like read in it to figure out what you like about it. And romance is no different. I mean, I'm never going to say that everybody will love every genre. It's hard for me to not think that because I am an omnivore and I do tend to like at least something in pretty much every genre. But I think most people can find something that they will like in a genre, even if it's not their favorite genre, if they are open to it. So, have you read Latin American classics? I have not read very many, I'm going to be honest with you. 100 Years of Solitude really put me off. I gave it a try and really didn't enjoy it, and I've kind of been trepidatious about going back ever since. I also, and I don't know this for a fact, but when I was trying to do this, I got the impression that there weren't as many great translations for books that were originally written in Spanish or Portuguese into the English. And I wonder if now that's less of a problem. But I remember I tried him. I tried some Pablo Neruda poetry and couldn't quite get into it. And I kept wondering if it was like a translation issue. I don't know. So at some point in my life, I will circle back around. But as of right now, I've honestly not read that much, which is too many books, too little time, right? What am I reading right now? I'm technically in between things because I finished up my audio. I finished up my audio yesterday. I finished up everything yesterday. I just finished that disappointing category romance. I finished a fantastic arc of a contemporary romance called Spoiler Alert yesterday morning, which I recommend. And then yesterday I also finished an Agatha Christie, Death Comes as the End, which I'm still trying to decide what I think about it. In terms of what I'm going to read next, I think this afternoon I'm going to get started on a different arc I have for a kind of suspense type book called Hidden. So there you go. Murder, She Wrote, I love too much. It's so good. Angela Lansbury and Death on the Nile, rather, is like honestly iconic. So good. Yes, lots of love for Murder, She Wrote. Are you a fan of Miss Fisher? I am. I have not read the books because I've actually been told that the books are very faithful. Like let me reverse that. The TV show is quite faithful to the books. So I actually haven't felt a need to go back and read them, but I very much enjoyed. I saw the first 2 seasons. I didn't, and I think it went off of American Netflix right when the 3rd season was coming out. So I haven't been able to finish it, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. Yes, Cabot Cove, terrifying but wonderful. Yeah, the new Hercule Poirot. I mean, I will see it, but I don't expect to like it, so I'm mostly expecting that will be a hate watch. Have you tried Georgette Hare romances? So it's complicated. I tried one and DNF'd it, and then I tried one of her mysteries because I was like, maybe I'll like that better, and did not enjoy her writing style in either. And now I thought that I'd heard that there were some suspicious anti-Semitic things happening in her books, and like I've read a lot more about that since then. So like, I think she's just one that's not for me. I have enough problematic faves from the past. I don't feel the need to add to her. I don't mean to like. I think we all have complicated relationship to people in the past who we would not be down with if they were in the present. And I just don't like, so I'm not trying to take that away from anyone. We all got our problematic past faves. I'm just not going to be adding her to mine at this point. Like, if I don't have the attachment, why would I create it? If that makes sense. Oh, Trial by Error. Oh, I don't remember those names. Remind me. Is Trial by Error the one that's like 12 Angry Men? Because that's another of my favorite Murder, She Wrote episodes. I don't remember which ones those are. Which historical periods are you most interested in reading about? I tend to in terms of nonfiction or fiction, because nonfiction I can read about almost any period. Fiction-wise, I mean, I'm kind of basic. I tend to like a medieval type thing. If we're talking romance, I definitely in romance prefer like a Scottish or a medieval historical over a Regency or Victorian. I also like unusual periods. So like I recently got one that's like from the 20s. And I just got I got two from the 20s. One is from Melissa Cole and it's called Let Us Dream. And it is about a suffragette in the 20s who is having a romance with an Indian immigrant who is a chef, like Indian from India, to be clear about that. And it's in the 20s, I think, like in New York. And that just sounds great. Yeah. Can't remember the name. A good friend in the series in each. Oh, Andrea, that's so many romances. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to give more information to be able to narrow that down. Yes, those are so good. Both of those are great. Only one bed. Yes, that if I had to pick one trope, that might. I don't know. I do love a marriage of convenience / a fake relationship, but that's only one bed is a favorite. Sarah McLean's quality is super high. She's too angsty for me, but I very much enjoy her podcast, and I acknowledge like quality wise, she is great. It's too angsty. And I think all of her favorite tropes are all of my least favorite tropes based on listening to her on that podcast. So she's not for me, but I think she's a great recommendation for people looking to get into romance. Yeah, it's hard. I've tried to try that one before. It's a little, I don't know, in the US, if you can if anybody knows where Rosemary and Thyme is streaming, because I've always had trouble finding it. Good to know. Pedro Paramo by Juan Rolfo. Okay, good to know. I'm really behind in chat. I'm sorry. Yeah, I was young also when I tried 100 Years of Solitude, so I'm sure that may have been a part of it. Thank you. I have not heard of the anime Detective Conan. Oh, wow. That sounds like a trip. Oh, yeah. Ian, I can't believe there's one you've not read. It's an interesting book. I'm still deciding how I feel about it totally, but thank you. Have a good day. Oh, none of the second season of Miss Fisher is based off the books. Okay, that's good to know. I honestly was only aware of that for the first one, so that's good to know. The Picture of Dorian Gray, I just love, like, it's probably one of my favorite, like, magical realism type books. I think it incorporates that aspect really well. Oscar Wilde as a stylist is just one of my faves. Like, he has such panache, I think, thematically, in terms of what like kind of the bit about like image and this pursuit of eternal youth, I think it remains a very relevant theme, probably even more so in a social media era. So yeah, Picture of Dorian Gray is a great classic to start with if people are trying to get into it. Yay! Hey there. You mentioned last stream, do you remember? Oh, mention this on my last stream. Do you remember where you've read that nonfictions are going to be the classics of our time? I think I feel like maybe in Slate somewhere, and then I heard the person who wrote the article on the Culture Gab Fest. They did a segment on that. I think that's where I remember getting that. I thought it was a persuasive or an interesting argument, if nothing else. Yeah. Let's see here. Yes, Murder, She Wrote's hard to get now to binge streaming in the US. It used to be on Netflix. I need to check and see if it's on Canadian Netflix. Ashley, you are going to love spoiler alert. Let me tell you. Spoiler alert. I think you're really going to enjoy it. It was really good. It's not perfect. Some of the motivations I think were a little contrived, but it's a real good time. I think you'll really like it. Yes, okay, thank you. Trial by Error is the 12 Angry Men of the Fletcherverse. It is so good. I love that episode. That is another one that I've rewatched 3,000 times. Home Fries is the Poisoning at the Diner episode. Oh, that's right. There's a YouTube channel called Pushing Up Roses who does reviews of individual Murder, She Wrote episodes. And like every time I'm just like, oh, I forgot about this episode. And it always just makes me so happy. Okay. Death Comes as the End is the only book of hers I dislike. I didn't dislike it. I did not like the first half of it. I just think it's a weird book. It's not one of the good ones, I don't think. But I did find out, because I've been doing some reading on it because I was trying to like process it. It was the first ever historical mystery. Like it was the first time anybody had set like what would we would recognize as a detective novel in a historical setting at that point. So, like, it is an innovation. You got to give that to her, if nothing else. I hope I haven't... talking about the passage. Dane, you know. I feel like Dane and I have a bond for life because we made it through that effing book together. Though I got through it quick. You like, dragged your feet on it. I think you were making it your bedtime book, right? So it just took you forever to get through it. I know some people love that book, but it's not mine. It's not for me. Info of nonfiction books that were not for school. I like how to separate retaining info so you don't feel like college reading. I think some of it is that if you're reading nonfiction things that you're actually interested in, you're much more likely to remember it. Like if you're not that interested in the topic, it's harder to remember. So I mean, honestly, one of my tips is like having a Booktube channel / having friends that I like to talk about what I'm reading with, because it helps. Like I'm a verbal processor, so it helps me remember things if I talk about it. Okay, Acorn TV, good to know. Yes, I do love Mariana Zapata. I have hands down. I am gonna do a full day binge of it sometime this week, probably. I was pretty disappointed in last year's release, so I'm trying to keep my hopes not as high. Yeah, Shelley Lawrenston is very hit or miss on the humor, though. I hate Shelley Lawrenston's humor. Like, I can't read those books. Some people love them, but for me, the humor is a total miss. Yeah, I don't like Endless Night. I know that's an unpopular opinion, but oh man, I'm super behind in chat. Okay. Good to know. Okay. Yes. Agatha Christie. I've read both and liked both The Silent Patient and Our Man in Havana. I saw the twist coming in Silent Patient, but I enjoyed still seeing like how it unfurled. Oh, it's not on Canadian Netflix right now? Damn it. Okay, where is which Netflix is Murder, She Wrote streaming on, guys? I need to get a fix. What do I think of the Marple Cerise? Don't know what that is, so I don't think anything of it. Oh gosh, I'm sorry, guys. I'm so behind. Okay, recommendation for Western historical. Yes, Ashley, I hope you enjoy it. I think you will. Is on Prime's IMDb TV. Oh, I've never tried to do that. Okay, thank you, KR. I may try that. Faulkner, I can't get into for the long stuff. I've read some short stories that I liked better. But yeah. The Quiet American is probably my favorite Graham Greene, either that or The End of the Affair. Yes, I agree, Vamps Rock. That's one of the best things about Booktube is it like just, I mean, it gives me too many books to read, but it has definitely opened up my horizons a lot. Yeah. Oh man, that's like our war story. We were both in the trenches on The Passage together. Ooh, there you go. Oh, Mount Juliet. This is not a great time for them to be opening up a new store, but there you go. Yeah, I agree. I agree with Dane's assessment. Medieval times are so fascinating. Two excellent medieval mystery stories are Brother Codfell and Sister Fidelma. Yeah, Brother Cadfell I've gotten recommended to me a lot. Someday, man. Someday. Do you think of Murderbot as FT? I try to just use they because for some reason I picture Murderbot as somewhat femme, but there's no textual support for that. So it's just they. There you go. Okay, thank you. Well, now I know what I'm doing the rest of the day. I have to take one meeting even though I'm on vacation. And after that meeting, I'm putting on some Murder, She Wrote. No, I'm not keeping up with it. I'm going to wait till it's done. I'm not good at being a serial chapter by chapter reader. It just makes me, I just can't get into it. Okay, yes, everybody's saying Murder, She Wrote is on Amazon Prime, so that's exciting. I have read Camus. I would be interested to read Camus now because Camus was like a part of, so I minored in French and he was like a big part of our, was it the second or third French literature class we had to take as a part of that? Like whenever we got to the modern era, basically. And so I did read a few. I read L'Étranger and I don't remember the other one. And at the time, I was still pretty caught up in fundamentalism. So I don't think I had like an ability to really hear him. Like I just was really sad about what he was saying. I think now I'd be a lot more into what his project is. But that's really the extent of it. I have not read that book. Yay, welcome. I'm glad you could catch me live. Top 10 Murder, She Wrote episodes coming soon to books like WoW. Maybe this could be a live stream topic. I don't know. After I do my like full binge on Prime here soon. Okay, anyway, getting back to the books, my favorite books I've read so far. I'll shout out the two Roxane Gay. So Hunger was my favorite book of 2017. AYITI was my favorite book of 2018. Hunger is Roxane Gay's memoir. AYITI is a collection of short stories that are all thematically having to do with Haiti. these are two of my favorite books ever. Like, I just love Roxane Gay. I think I'm going to try to read Difficult Women this year. I've been trying to like spread out her works because there's only so many. Both of them are just so good. So Roxane Gay is up there. And then Treachery and Death was my favorite book last year. And I would say, in terms of like a reading experience while on Booktube, I think catching up with the In-Depth series is probably my favorite reading experience, even more so than like either of my Christie rereads / finishing off those canons. Like, I just had such a good time binging this series over the course of probably a year and a half or 2 years. There are 50 books in the series. This is my favorite of those 50 books. And it was just like, yeah, it was just such a great, wonderful reading experience. I'm going to be honest, these are police procedurals, and granted, they are set in a future dystopia, or not dystopia, just like alternate future kind of thing. I do think it's going to be tricky reading police procedurals for me this year. So there's a new one coming out in the fall, but I think that's probably the only like straight up police procedural I'm going to be trying to read. I don't know. It's just hard, I think, these days. Like, it just takes on new meaning. And especially because these books are like envisioning a more like progressive future. I think having the main character be so invested in a form of policing where she often is like purposely violent with people, I don't know. I think that's going to be a complicated reading experience. We'll see how that happens. But that's September me's problem, because that's when the next one in the series is coming out. But I do still have so much affection for the series, I should say. I've been thinking about how I don't know what that experience is going to be like, honestly. Okay, support for Murder, She Wrote top 10. Oh man. No, because, well, I attempted. I started and noped right on out. There you go. I read and enjoyed The Dubliners. Like, that was great. And then Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man, I read it all, and the first 2/3 of it I really loved, and the last third I did not love. And I tried Ulysses and was like, I'm assuming we're talking about James Joyce's Ulysses, by the way, and not for me. Not for me, dog. Hunger. Yes, Hunger is an incredibly meaningful book to me. It made me feel very seen. I could relate to a lot of the things in it in terms of her specific history and also her ways of dealing with that history. Yeah, AYITI is one of those collections where I honestly love every story, which is rare. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty normal in a short story collection. You tend to like some better than others. Yes, I also love those books. And I am excited to keep going in the series. Yeah, Hunger is pretty hardcore. Like, I think that's fair, and I would definitely encourage anybody thinking about reading Hunger to do some sufficient investigation of trigger warnings that you may need. So there you go. Okay, if I was gonna say like a single book that's been, well, I don't know. It's just special to me because of how things have evolved, is All Systems Red by Martha Wells. Because I just feel like this is, there's a few books that I can like feel good about, like I'm getting people to read these. Like, so many people have told me that they've started reading Ilona Andrews because of me, or Nalini Singh, or Agatha Christie, or the In-Depth series. Like, there's a few books I routinely hear people saying like, oh, I read this because of you. But I think at least recently Murderbot / All Systems Red has to be up there. And I just love this book so much. And I love this series. This was my second favorite book last year. And I think that makes sense. Like, this is my favorite reading experience. This was my favorite individual book, if that makes sense. I just love it. It's so good. It's so good. Which have been your favorite Eve books? Do you like more personal cases or the more complicated cases? I actually personally don't love her more like its personal ones. I tend to like, I like it. So like Treachery and Death, by the way, is it's personal for Peabody kind of thing. And I like that. Like if it's personal to someone else in her life, I tend to like that. And I also just like her more complicated cases in general. The one, like, I think especially once you've had 50 books in a series, when it's always personal to the protagonist, it you know, strains credulity after a while. So I actually don't love it when it's personal to Eve or Rourke. But I know other people like it a lot better. I understand how Camus could be upsetting for fundamentalists. Camus is often mislabeled as some depressing nihilist, but his Sisyphus-centric philosophy is super optimistic. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, at some point, I think I'll dip my toe back in with him. I think I maybe I've got my French translation around here somewhere. It might be a good way to kind of stretch those muscles as well. Yes, and then there were none. So good. The Gardens of the the Gardens of the Galaxy. Nope. Guardians by John Grisham. No, I've not read Grisham in years, honestly. Yeah, Murderbot. It's just so good. Yeah, Victoria, that is fair. I'm 27-ish books into In Death and love them, but need to spread them out as they get a bit too repetitive to me. Now, Victoria, I will tell you, you are entering what I think is the peak of the series. Which is a funny, like, I feel even just saying that, like, of this 50 book series, once you get to the late 20s and early 30s, that's like really when it's great. But I do think that's true. I think that the back half of the 20s through the 30s and early 40s is like the best part of the series. So like strap in, you've got some really solid books coming your way here in the next few. Okay, and then the last two books that I'm going to mention, because in 2017, tied for second place was the entire Hidden Legacy trilogy, because I binge read those over the Thanksgiving of 2017. So there you go. Also, sorry, it's hard for me to figure out which one is more prominent here. Okay. It's like backwards for me. This cover is awful. This cover makes me so mad. Like his abs don't even look real. Like if you're gonna have like a ripped dude, at least make it real. And these covers put people off what is an incredibly good urban fantasy series. Like this is a really good urban fantasy series with like a heavy romantic element to them. So this is definitely, I think if you're looking for something to to try romance with, these are good. But Ilona Anders is just so freaking good. And WILDFIRE is my favorite of these three. But technically these two books round it out. This is the second book in the series. This is the third book in the series. So anyway. Okay. I found you because I'm a classics lover and I wonder how you grapple with readers holding classics to a 2020 ethical standard. So I think I kind of, it's complicated. I think my position, and I try to think about this in terms of something that I can relate to. So like, let's take like feminist stuff. I think it is unreasonable to hold a book written 200 years ago to the exact same cultural norms and standards as we have today. That being said, there are some books that so violate things that are cultural and ethical norms for me that I find it to be distracting in the text, and therefore I can't get into the book. Trying to think of an example here. So I guess like kind of as a principle, I would say, I think you have to take, like, I tend to read those books with some level of like, this is a historical document and that kind of analysis. And that keeps me sometimes from being able to fully like emotionally get into a book. And sometimes not being able to get emotionally into a book is to the point where it just completely ruins the experience of the book for me. I'm thinking of what is that last Marple where she is on that trip? Basically, there's some things like having to do with rape culture in the second to last Marple book that is so bothersome. And I was reading it while Me Too was happening that it just materially made me not like that book a lot more. And I guess I think that there's two forces and readers need to hear each other and like be able to dialogue between those two forces. There's some people who have this like weird, like there's purity ideology on both sides. Like there are people who feel like art is completely separate from the creator and from its time. Like having any kind of personal response and bringing any baggage in from today's world is not, like is beneath people. Basically, they kind of act like we should just be these nebulous minds floating out in space, being able to rationally and objectively evaluate a work of art completely divorced of any ethical or moral issues we may have with it. And then I think there are people who are on the opposite end and only have an emotional response and say like, I don't care what the author's intention was, this hurts. And I think that both need to be in dialogue with each other, because there can be a kind of, again, I mentioned earlier, I come out of fundamentalism. I get wary of anything where there's some sort of like thought, like shibboleth of like, you have to have this kind of like ideological purity to be able to be a good reader of this. Like that to me, I am suspicious of. And so to me, what is interesting and important and the way to engage with classics is to have an open dialogue about what things are problematic, morally questionable, whatever, in these books that have, kind of stood the test of time up to this point. Like, let's be honest about that and have conversations about that and accept that for some people, that will be something that keeps them from enjoying that book ever. And then let's also have a discussion of like, but what can we learn from this still? Like, what can we still get from this? So for me, it's that tension. And I think that tension is what makes for good analysis of classics, not taking a hard stand on one side or the other. That's just my approach. Thus endeth the preach. Yes, Murder on the Orient Express is a good one to start with. Psychological thriller novels. I guess it kind of depends on what your version of a psychological thriller entails. A good one I've read recently that I enjoy that I would probably put in this category is The Shadows by Alex North. I just did a giveaway with Macmillan Audio on this one, so they sent me a physical copy of the audio. I think this one is a nice suspensey, like, what is real? Is there a crazy person out there kind of book? Yay! Oh, Ashley, good luck. I hope you enjoy it. Emerald Blaze! Yes, it's so soon. Like 2 months out. I can't wait. Yes, Victoria, keep reading. It's going to get so good. Murderbot is the main character in the Murderbot Diaries series, the first book of which is All Systems Red. Ooh, I don't know if I know that. Let's see here. Yeah, that cover of White Hot is awful. I mean, I don't want to my taste, I don't want to disparage. I'm sure the artist was following the prompts they were given just fine, but oh, thank you, Sharon. Yes, Hidden Legacy is so good, and I also have to tell people to just ignore it. I have requested one. I've been told that they're like not really giving many out because it's the second book in an established series, so I'm doubting I'm gonna get one at this point. I know, Ilona Andrews, it's the good stuff. Yeah, don't let the covers put you off. They're really good books, I promise. Yeah, and Kay, that's exactly kind of what I'm getting at, of like, you can still enjoy something overall, but also just say like there are lines that like I don't agree with. Like, I don't agree with things that come up in her books. I talked about that recently with The Man in the Brown Suit, but also like sometimes that's going to go to the point where somebody's just not going to be able to enjoy the book, and I think that that's valid. Yes, Alexander, you're bringing the load. That was something I think about a lot, because I know I do talk about classics on here, and I think it is a complicated thing to be an ethical reader of classics. I mentioned this in my recent June wrap up. I've gotten a lot of comments on my classics videos recently being like, stop bringing politics into this. And literally what I'm just saying is like, hey, in the classics canon, in the English speaking world, there's just not that much like diversity, which hopefully as the classic canon continues to evolve, there will be more of that. And like that was considered to be some sort of like crazy political statement. And I think that there is a group of people who like classics because there's a perception that they don't have to engage with PC culture, or they don't have to think about those things. And I don't think that that is an ethical way to continue to read the classic canon. That's just my opinion. Oh, yes. The Madness of Lord Ian Mackenzie is so good. I remember I read that when I was on a group retreat in the Gulf Islands outside of Vancouver, like on the Golden Coast, or Golden Coast, is that what it's called? But just like all the little islands around BC. We were staying in this beautiful house, and I was looking out over the water. It was lovely. If it's not intrusive, are you still religious or of faith? I'm super interested in theology, and I think some serious discussions are to be had. Yeah, I don't even know how to answer that anymore. I think I would probably say that I still identify philosophically as Christian. That is something I think it's so rooted in me that it would be hard for that to kind of get out. I don't think of myself as sort of like dogmatically Christian in any meaningful sense anymore. I occasionally go to church. I think a lot of, like I said, a lot of the philosophy and sort of like teachings and writings of Christianity still hold a lot of resonance to me, especially liberation theology. I think my former self would call me some sort of godless heathen, like when I was in fundamentalism. Like I would think that I'm complete. I guess I would say, actually, you know what? Rhett and Link had videos about their deconstruction process out of fundamentalism, and I resonate with a lot of what they were saying. And I think one of the things Rhett mentioned was that he thinks of himself as a hopeful agnostic, and I would probably maybe call myself like a hopeful Christian agnostic, if that makes sense. So I'm very sympathetic to people who, like, I think I'm very interested in spirituality. Obviously, I got my degree in religion. Very interested in spirituality and philosophy, and I'm very sympathetic to people who hold those beliefs very deeply. I think I'm not at a place right now in my life where I can dogmatically really do that, but I still have a lot of respect for it. Think and Grow Rich. Ooh. Yeah, I've never read that one, but ooh. Yeah. Hello to India. Oh, I don't know James Herbert. Graphic novels or comics. Nonfiction graphic novel, I would recommend March by John Lewis, that trilogy. Fiction graphic novel, fantasy, I enjoy Monstrous by Marjorie Liu, and I forget who the artist is. And then I'm about to start The Wicked and the Divine. Yes, The Sunshine Coast. Thank you. Thank you. It is gorgeous. It's wonderful. I do think I would like A Curious Beginning. I just haven't gotten into it yet. But yeah, that's on my radar. Some classics, especially children's classics, have so much derogatory stuff about India and Indians. Oh, I read The Secret Garden to my kids and I couldn't read many bits. The same with Little Princess. Yeah, I didn't even think about that, but now that you say it, yeah. And I'm sorry that you were in the middle of a nice time with your children and had to edit things out. That is, yeah, that is not, yeah, that makes my heart hurt. I don't know James Herbert, but seems like he's I'm guessing SK Stephen King, maybe a similar. Oh, thank you, Pedro. Could you please tell me how reading books changed your life? Wow. I don't know. I don't know. My life would be very different. I guess I'll say when I was a kid, I was very bullied. I was picked on a lot. I was bullied. And I think books gave me a way to imagine a world beyond what I was currently experiencing. I think if I hadn't been such a reader, when I did get to a point where I was experiencing such a existential crisis in terms of like the faith I was inculcated into did not match my experience, I don't think I had, I think that reading gave me a broader perspective that there were different ways of being in the world. And I think that probably made me more open to changing my mind about that stuff than if I hadn't been a reader. Mouse is also great. Yeah. As a graphic novel biography. Yeah, Surprised by Joy, I would probably call one of my favorite books from C.S. Lewis. It's a it's a really interesting book, and I think a very honest autobiography of somebody coming to have religious faith. So, yay! Oh, Billy, I'm so glad you like Jane Doe. Yes, it's an interesting book. It's not for everyone. I've had some people come back and tell me they tried it based on my recommendation and they didn't love it. That probably could go into psychological thriller territory. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. It's definitely a very interesting book. I understand the beauty of the underlying philosophy of Christianity. It's just some things that Christianity dogmatically opposes are indigestible to me as a bisexual woke person. It's difficult. Yeah. I mean, I think that's a lot of where I'm at too. I think part of what I did in grad school was teach the history of Christianity. And I think being able to see how throughout time, under the umbrella of Christianity, there have been so many different flavors of how the dogma is translated has given me the ability to have hope that, or just like an awareness that Christianity is actually an incredibly adaptable religion based on its time and place, like where it is being promulgated. And I think that, frankly, the American, I would say that there is a marriage of American civil religion and American Christianity that has rendered probably one of the worst versions of Christianity that has ever been on the planet, in my opinion, coming from that tradition. I'm obviously biased because I'm not in that part of the church anymore. But I would just say that, like, if there are things that appeal to people about the philosophy of Christianity, like, I think reading some of the original texts, like some of the original source material in terms of theology is really interesting to do, and studying the history of it and seeing how adaptable it is a helpful approach. I have not. I have not read a Gaiman yet. Ooh. Nope. Destination Unknown, I read that for the project this year. It's honestly one of the least good ones from her. So I can understand not wanting to read more based on that. Yeah. Oh, good luck to you, Cappuccino Crafts. That's a tough road. I'm very lucky that a few of my good close friends were going through the same process at the same time. So that was good for community, but yeah, it's tough times. Oh my gosh, the same caller keeps calling me. Let's see here. Oh, I'm no good on translations. I'm not the best resource. I would go ask Jean Bookish Thoughts. She's a classicist. I bet she would have good recommendations for you. I have a business degree, so I don't get preoccupied with investments. I think it's not healthy. But yeah, I mean, I have them and I just let them sit. Yeah. And I think that's a good way to talk about, like, there's a difference between something being historically accurate and being okay. And I think people trying to defend like, oh, it's historically accurate. If you conflate that with it being right, it's a different thing. Separating the human traditions and flawed. Yeah. Yeah, and I think I can sympathize with that perspective. I talked about that earlier. I'm not currently reading something. I just finished things up yesterday. Space Trilogy. I don't think the Space Trilogy is nearly as good as Narnia, but could be my bias against. I do prefer fantasy over sci-fi in general. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Kay. Yeah. Where to start with Agatha Christie? I definitely would not start with Destination Unknown. Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, Destination Unknown also has like super sketchy things about self-harm in it that make it hard to recommend in general. Okay, there you go. Madeline Miller may have some recommendations. Let's see here. The new one, Take a Hint, Danny Brown, is even better than that. Than Get a Life, Chloe Brown, in my opinion. Oh, thank you, Ilona. Thank you for the recommendation there. Oh, okay. We've got some recommendations on those classics. What am I starting next? I think a suspensey kind of thing called Hidden. Yeah. Yeah, we've all got our problematic faves. About sustainability. One I read and enjoyed last year was called How to Give Up Plastic by Will McCain, something like that. I thought that was a really like approachable book on that topic. And then we've also heard Emily Wilson has a good translation. There we go. Oh, cool. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Well, I have not yet had lunch, and I have to take a meeting briefly here in a little bit, so I think I'm going to start winding down. But I appreciate everybody joining at a different hour today. I DNF'd Normal People. I tried to read it, and I could not deal with the prose. Where is it? I filmed part of an unhaul this morning, and I'm unhauling Normal People because it was not for me. Though I've heard a lot of people say, I've heard the recommendations are listen to it as audio, don't read it as a physical book, and people like the adaptation better than the actual book. Yay! Oh, Death on the Nile is a much better Christie. I think you'll like that a lot better. Books, reading site, or app. You could go so many places with that. I've recently started doing affiliate links to bookshop.org because I really like what they're doing, which is an online book platform that donates parts of its proceeds to independent bookstores and allows independent bookstores to make commissions. It's kind of a competitor to Amazon, so I think that's cool. Yeah. Okay, yeah, here's somebody who liked the adaptations, but not the book itself. Yes, Death on the Nile is fantastic. Yes, it is a great community. Yeah, I hope everyone has a great day. Yes, I'm glad we could get more EU people / British people / anybody in those time zones. I guess all of Africa. So anyone who's from South Africa, that whole stretch of the globe. I'm glad we could do one that was a little easier for y'all to catch. So I appreciate everybody joining. Let's see here. Yes, Murder, She Wrote Marathon. Let's see here. I just finished Crooked House. Yay! Oh, I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It is such a good one. Thank you, Anne Marie. Yes, you too. Have a great day. Have a great day. Okay. I hope everyone has a great evening. My next pre-film video goes up, I think, Thursday. And I'll be back to my normal slot next Tuesday for live, which is at 6 p.m. or not 6 p.m., 8 p.m. Central, which is 2 a.m. BST. So sorry about that. But I'll be back next week. So anyway, hope you guys have a good one. I will talk to you later. Bye.